What's up? I'm Jelani. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a SQL generator in FileMaker using ChatGPT. We're going to be able to describe exactly what data we want to get out of our database in natural language, in English, and ChatGPT is going to convert that into a SQL query that we can execute in our database. So in this video, we're going to learn some basic prompt engineering and how to get ChatGPT to give us the output that we want. And we're going to learn how to interact with an API within FileMaker, specifically the OpenAI API. And we're going to learn how to execute SQL queries within FileMaker. So with that being said, let's get into the video. So first I wanted to get into how I actually went about getting the output I want, which is just the SQL query, no extra stuff. So I started out by saying, pretend you're a magic SQL generator that converts natural language into a SQL query. You only respond with accurate SQL exactly as the user described. If the user says something that can't be converted to a SQL query but is related to SQL, then you're allowed to make a comment and answer the question. If the user says something unrelated to SQL, then throw an error and explain to them that what they said has nothing to do with SQL. So this worked. But it gave me all this extra stuff here in the response, and I don't want that, all this extra commentary. So then so I went through and added a little more to the prompt to get a more specifically what I wanted. So then I added this to it. And by the way, this is how I'm going to structure it when I insert the field from the FileMaker database with the user's prompt. I'll insert the variable here. I added this. Only respond with the SQL output and don't comment on the prompt. Just simply display the SQL only. And it gave me what I wanted. And then when I asked it something unrelated to SQL, it told me that it's not related to SQL. So this is what we want. So I'm gonna head over to the FileMaker file. So let's create a new record here. So I can type something in like select all records from the customers table. And it gives me a query based on that. And when I push this button, it gives me all the records and all the fields in this database. And if we go over to the manage database, we can see there's two tables in here. There's a customers table with 500 records, and there's several fields of information in here. And it gave us all that information from describing it in English. And you could get as complicated as you want with this. Here's another example. Oh, by the way, in FileMaker you can't use any other statement other than the select statement. You can't modify records or tables using SQL, you can only use select statements. You can't delete records. You can't update records. I believe if you have the Monkey Bread plugin, it will allow you to do that. But as far as the default settings in FileMaker, you're not able to do anything other than view records. But anyway, so if we look at the prompt that I ended up creating, because I went through a few more iterations as I was building this. This is where I build the prompt. So this is what I ended up with that gave me the final output that I wanted. Pretend you're a magic SQL generator that converts a natural language query to a SQL query. You only respond with an accurate syntax SQL statement exactly as the user describes. If the user says something that can't be converted to a SQL query but is related to SQL, then you're allowed to make a comment or answer their question. If the user says something unrelated to SQL, throw an error and explain to them what they said has nothing to do with SQL. Only respond with the SQL output. Don't comment on this prompt. Simply display the generated SQL only. And then and I'll show you this in a second, I gave it a list of the table names and corresponding column names for each table in this database that the SQL query will be executed in. And right here, I enter in the variable right here, and then only generate SQL that can be generated in this database. If the user references a table or field that isn't in the list, then throw an error and explain to the user how that table or field does not exist in the database. And here's where it gets really cool, and this shows you the power of using this technology. If the user references the name of a table or field that is similar to a name from the list, just assume that it is that name or field. So if you slightly misspell, like you don't type in exactly where the capital or the underscore is in the table or field name, it'll just, if it's close enough, it'll just assume that it is that name and just give you the right query for that, which is just so crazy. And so then I just inject the user's input right here, and then this is what we send off in the API request. So now this is where, so I'll just go through the different lines of this script, and it's really pretty simple how this all works. So in this first part, I get context to the database that the SQL is actually going to be executed in. So I start out with, in FileMaker, I use this function to get the table names in the form of a list of all the table names in the database. And it's just going to create a string with that information, and that's all I want, and it's going to save it in this string. And then, so that's all the table names. Then we're going to loop through those table names to get the field names for each of those tables. So we're going to set, if you're familiar with any programming language and using loops, you start out with a variable, then as the loop goes through, you increment the variable, and when it gets to the length, when it gets to the length that of your list, then it stops the loop. So there's in this particular database, there's only 2 tables, so when it'll loop through 2 times and stop. So the first thing it does once it enters the loop is it will get the table name. It'll get the first name in the list of table names by selecting it with this variable, which will be, the first time it'll be 1, the second time it'll be 2. So it'll select the name of the in that list of, so it'll start out with the first table name, and then we use that same get value table names right here to get the field names for that table, if that makes sense. So to get field names, you get the file name of this FileMaker file, which is called Magic SQL, which it will figure out right here. So you could execute this script in any database and it should be able to work. So it'll get the file name here, and then it will get the table name here, and then it will write a list of all the fields and then add it to this string. It'll append it to the string variable we created before. So it'll loop through each of the table names and get all their fields. And here I have a test script to display what that is. So this is what the output is going to look like for that string. It's going to list the table names here, and then it'll say the fields in the customers table are da 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 da. The fields in this table are da da da. So then we're going to take that and we're going to insert it into our prompt. So once we get there, we've got our string with our context of the database. So then we can start to build our prompt, which I showed you earlier. And it inserts that information right here. So we explained that this is what the list of table names and whatnot is going to be, and then we pop it in right there so it knows what we're talking about. And then we can start to build our API request. So we're going to make a JSON to send over to when you're working with an API, you obviously are going to want to look at the documentation and figure out the exact structure. It took me a little bit of trial and error to get the FileMaker format sent off just right so that it works. But so when you create a JSON object in FileMaker, there's a gajillion ways to do it, but this is how I did it. I just basically wrote it how you would normally write a JSON object, but it's within quotes because it's a string in FileMaker, so I had to escape all the quotation marks, and this worked. So then that was it. That allowed me to insert the variable right here, concatenate the string right in the prompt part of the JSON, and this is the structure. So we're actually using the Text DaVinci 3 model, chat completion API endpoint or whatever. Alright, I'm going to show you how to get your API key, which you're going to need if you download the file in the description below, because I'm going to delete mine from the script and it'll say authentication failed if you try to run the script. So you're going to need your own API key from the OpenAI website. So go here to the openai.com website, click login, or create an account if you haven't already, which if you're watching this video you probably have. So then go to the API and then go up to here and then you can access your API keys right here. So that's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to show it on screen. And if you guys have any questions, just leave a comment below and I can help you out. And there's also a ton of videos on how to actually interact with the API. So then we take that JSON object and we actually send it off to the API and save the result in a variable called result. So the variable result, the URL, this is the API endpoint that we're getting that we're requesting to, and here's the curl options that we use. So to do a HTTP request in FileMaker, it looks like this. You have to escape the quotation marks. So we're sending a JSON, and you shouldn't share anyone your API key, and I'm gonna revoke this after I post the video, or before I post the video. But anyway, this is what it's gonna look like, and then we insert that variable right here. And that's what we're gonna send off, and it saves the result, saves the whatever it sends us back into this variable, and which will be a JSON object. So you're gonna want to parse that output, and I had it post that output right into this field right here, and for some reason it was giving me, I don't understand why I put in the prompt before, like it kept giving me this semicolon at the end of the SQL query, which won't work in FileMaker. I don't know why it does that. And even when I put in the prompt, like this is the thing with the prompt engineering, like sometimes you can tell it to do stuff and it just ignores it. Like I said, don't put a semicolon at the end. It still put it. I don't know why. So that's why I use this substitute to get rid of any semicolons in the output. Kind of a hack solution, but it works. And so anyway, we parse the result that comes back from the request, and this is it gets the first element of the JSON of the choices sub object or whatever. I don't know exactly what you call it. And then this is where the result of the text lives, that the actual completion, the actual response from, there's a bunch of other data information that comes in the JSON that we don't care about. So this just gets the exact SQL query that we want and just puts it right into that field right there. And that's basically it. So then let's test this out. So I can show you, this is a database of people. It's called customers. It's got this information, right? So in our prompt, we told ChatGPT the field names and the table name of this thing. So we should be able to, all right, let's try to trick it. Let's say, get all the people from the let's make up a name, random table, and see what happens. So that table name doesn't exist in its database, so it's working the way we want. So get all the people from the customers table. See, it works. It works. Okay. So then when we push this button, look at that. It got everything from the table. It got all the people from the customers table. So like, let's say we just want just get all the names and emails from the customers table. Okay, what does that turn out? Oh shoot, that's okay. So now list them in descending order. Okay. That's so sweet, isn't that? That's just that's awesome. So I mean, you can say anything in here and it'll give you a query to get the data that you're looking for, and it will understand what you're saying. So, if you would like to download this file, there's going to be a link in the description. When you click the link, it's going to take you to this page on my website. And when you enter your email, it will take you to a page where you can download the file right here. And by the way, leave a comment below if you are interested in knowing how I made this landing page using ChatGPT. And it took me about 15 minutes to make this. I basically the gist of it was, you can pause the video and read this prompt right here. It generated the page for me, and I was going to have it sent to a Filemaker database, and I changed my mind and had it send it to a webhook for make.com. If you've never heard of make.com, it's pretty cool. It lets you automate stuff, and it makes your life so cool and advanced. Anyway, it takes that form, it sends these little form datas to this webhook and saves it to a spreadsheet. And you can see my email popped in right here. And by the way, if you have any questions, just email me at emailme@jelanismith.com. And thanks for watching the video.